So the idea is that do we go back and try to renegotiate from the viewpoint 1963, or given that this is the 21st century, we try to negotiate a new set of guarantees? So do we look back and build on the foundation of 63, or do we try to look for something totally new? I mean, what do young people like you think?
I don't think we should look back as a guide, as like your initial document to look at, because Malaysia was founded based on the Malaysian MA 63. So moving forward, yes, there definitely needs to be revision. There definitely needs to be areas that we could definitely do better, or improvement needs to come in. But the document that we should be guided on, for an initial reference, will be MA 63. Where we go from there, how we go about it, we definitely need the existing working party to take a look, to do a study, to have, like as Carol mentioned, proper professionals with maybe a political stance, and from a neutral stance, whose interest is the interest of the people and not so much of a particular political party who's been in power since the beginning. So, yeah.
So the issue is that can we trust the very same politicians who gave up the state powers to lead the discussion now? In other words, for example, in the case of Sarawak, it's very obvious that they've gone through a rebranding exercise. It was the Sarawak Barisan Nasionalis with power throughout the years from 63 onwards, and they are the very same people who gave up the power to the federal government. Today they're called GPS after rebranding exercise. Young people such as yourself, do you think that they have a role to play, or they should remove themselves from the process because they were involved in the earlier years when they gave up the power?
I'm going to respond to something you said earlier, James, which is that the current people who are running the show, be it within the state governments or on a federal level, are essentially members of an old guard, or some of them have representation from the old administration. Essentially, I think looking at the political climate currently, you'll see them in both the opposition and the current ruling coalition, right? I mean, it's them if you do, them if you don't, as far as I consider it. I'm completely for the injection of new blood, which I think is a huge problem currently. When I go back to Sabah and I'm looking for young people who are driven and empowered to do more for their state, I notice a huge vacuum, either by way of being conditioned for years to not speak up, or being conditioned to not know enough, or more importantly, having to deal with bread and butter issues, which has essentially been the problem for a long time. The only way I feel, on a personal capacity, that we're able to sort of keep a lot of these old guards who've made tons of mistakes in the past, is that you need new people to come in and tell them, you have power, but I have rights, and you have to do what I need you to do. I personally see the only way to do that is that a huge effort is made at the moment to educate as many, or to teach, or to at least expose as many of young people, both in Sabah and Sarawak, to what it is that they don't understand. Even if you say 20 points or 18 points in Sarawak, how many people actually really know? They probably know a handful, even if they have heard of it. But the documents are so, elaborate from a 1963 point of view, that a lot of the time there's a fear of sort of engaging with that document. I do think that there needs to be an upgrade of the document, but the official 20 points specific to Sabah had a lot of points that were very valid till today, right? There are still communities that don't necessarily believe in one specific religion, for example. There's animism or syncretic understandings of being Christian, for example, or being Muslim, for that fact. The sort of languages that we've possessed, native rights, Borneoization, in the civil service. I think a lot of what was mentioned in 1963 holds valid till today. And if they were completely changed to fit the 21st century necessities, I am concerned that there will still be a huge group of people that say that's not fair. We didn't even have a chance to sort of explore the breadth of the 20 points yet, and now we've got to jump through a different hoop.
I completely agree. I think that's similar to how sometimes you can amend certain things right, let's say in an agreement, like we would still have this original compass, right, the original agreement as our compass, but there are things that maybe we should revisit and amend as needed, but only if, like if it's like, like there's certain guidelines and whatnot that we hold it by.
And definitely I'm for the working committee having a mix of old and new blood inside, because at the end of the day, all these people are still democratically elected by the people. They still represent the people. And you have old people right now in a government, but in a different coalition. Tun Mahathir was previously with the BN government, but now he's Prime Minister again as Pakatan Harapan. So he is right. We know for now that he is trying to right the wrongs that he has set. So maybe these people in the working committee once more are trying to right the wrong that they have done the first time round. So if we believe that they are for the interests of the people, that I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But as she mentioned earlier, it's good to have a mix of old blood and new blood, because new blood always brings a breath of fresh air, something that the older generation have overlooked over time.
Yeah.
Now we move on to the second segment. One of the arguments you constantly hear on this side of Malaysia is the fact that people here really do not understand the significance of MA63. They think it's a highly emotive issue, and they think that it's really all about history. So how do you answer Malayans who say that, North Borneo and Sarawak joined the Federation of Malaysia back in 63, or they helped form the Federation of Malaysia back in 63? Get over it. You're now part of Malaysia. So why do you keep harping on about something that happened 30 years ago?
I normally give them an illusion of a description of how it's similar to the formation of the United Kingdom, similarly to how Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland form the United Kingdom. So the Sabah, Sarawak, and and Malaya form Malaysia. So it makes it easier for them to understand, because they understand how the UK works, like how Scotland and Wales have their own administration and so on. And once they understand that concept, it makes it easier for them to understand how Malaysia works. And more often than not, their reply is, "Oh, okay, we didn't know. We thought it was you joined to form Malaysia and you joined us as a state instead of an equal partner." And so, in other words, telling them that Sabah and Sarawak is like another country, two countries that join a third country to form a new federation. So it took a lot of conversations, and sometimes which answers their query at the end on why they need to go in with their IC and have to sign in certain documents and so on. Because these are some of the common questions that we get from them.
Do you think Malayans, people from your generation, do you think they really understand the depth of grievances in Sabah and Sarawak? Or do you think that most people here really don't care?
Well, I'll be happy if they start off by knowing where Sabah and Sarawak is, and their preaching is in Sarawak and not in Sabah. So that already goes to show how little they know about the states in general. What more to say, going in depth to understanding how people from Sabah and Sarawak feel about these issues, right? Like, for the most part, out of 10 West Malaysians that I meet, 9 or 8 have never even been to Sabah and Sarawak before, and yet they've gone to 40 other countries, or like 10 other countries. And that just goes to show how little just general knowledge there is. Because again, this goes back to knowledge and education, whereby our history books were never extremely helpful in describing this. We don't really have people here, and then it doesn't help when they see ads of Sabah and Sarawak. It's all just people in like long houses and
native
jungle,
costumes,
river boats. It doesn't really help the perception that this is like some ulu place with like people living on trees. So, but that being said, they definitely don't know enough, and at the same time, they also have not had the opportunity to know, because the knowledge has not been widely available and disseminated properly. And at the same time, it's also a little bit of like a very like, whatever lah, you joined already ma, right? So why you just so noisy about it? But I feel that if they had a little bit more, if there was more conversation, constructive conversation, then I think everyone would actually be better for it.